Okay, so oil leaks on the PD4106 GM coach. At this point we have a leak here on the torrus drive or viscous drive, whatever you want to call it. It's leaking not from the fan seal for a change, it's leaking under here as you can see, and at the next couple of gaskets back. So I've got a kit from Luke at US Coach, and now we get to learn how to pull it all apart. I've got a vague idea from watching some videos from Bus Grease Monkey. Thank you very much for those videos. Anyway, so we'll see how it goes, and you can follow along and see what mistakes I made. Okay. Okay, so we've got a nice little thing in here. Looks like it's designed for a screwdriver to get in there. Gasket's coming apart. Okay. Oh, there we go. Look at that. It all comes apart. Marvellous. That'll be fun to clean the gasket off, but anyway, that's what you find when you pull it apart. Let's see, what have we got to do next? So undo that bolt, undo those I'm going to hold this on. So I'll work on that next. Okay, so 732 Allen box. Struggling a little bit because I had a shoulder replacement 5 weeks ago. It's coming along fairly well, but I've got limited strength in my left arm, so just have to proceed as best I can. Of that, but we're going to have to get rid of that as well to get that turbine off. Okay, Sharpie sort of chisel to start off with. I haven't got another one of those washers, so then we'll switch over to a nice blunt chisel. Then we're going to bugger it up properly. Okay, push that down fairly well. Look at what size bolt that is. Okay, so engine 516 for the bolt. And hopefully. Okay, turbine does come loose. Would you look at that? One turbine. Okay, so not quite sure what they're going to find in here while it comes apart. Hopefully it's not too much of a nuisance. Okay, so I kept on persevering until I got this off last night. I didn't want to put a lever in here and damage the surface, and it was really tight coming out. It took a lot of tapping away with a rubber hammer, just gradually coming off. But yeah, I managed to do it without getting any levers in here and damaging that surface, which is what I was aiming for. There's a bit of wear in these drive gears here. Not a lot I can do about that, but they won't do near as much work with me as they've done in their previous life, so there shouldn't be too much of a drama there. If we come over to where we were, and a bit of light on the subject, that's where we're up to here now. Okay, that's what's in there. Now this is the auxiliary drive for the original air conditioner compressor, so we'll be deleting that. I just got to take this off here next. Fortunately, it's not actually part of the oil filter, so as long as I can get in here to get those bolts undone, should be able to get that off. And then we can go around cleaning everything up and start putting things back together again. Okay. Okay, so I decided to get the auxiliary drive off first, just to wait a little bit and give me a little bit more working room. So, a little quick video of that, which is not terribly exciting, but anyway, I'll do that. So this is another part that's really tight. It's shimmed, which would control the adjustment for the bevel gears. Been helicoiled before by the looks, now by these. You don't really need this part, but I'll try and just keep tapping it out with a hammer. And while I've got this out, I'll make a cover for this, so we won't have to worry about it in future. Okay, and there's that piece out. So that'll make that a little bit lighter. There's a little bit of weight in that. And a few shims. Okay. Okay, so the really fun bit about this, sarcasm, is the bolts holding this on. I don't know if it's original GM or something that Ansett changed, but they're not just bolts threaded into a casting. You've got a nut on the back of them, and there's two around the back of here that are studs with nuts on the other side. I'd like to just leave it there, but if it's leaking, I'm not 100% sure whether it is or isn't. There's a lot of old oil residue in there. I'd hate to get this far, not do it and have it leak. So I'm going to have a crack at it, and hopefully I don't have to take the filter head off. I think there's enough room to get it off. I hope. But we'll find out. Okay? Okay, so in the interest of giving myself as much room as possible, I've moved the exhaust pipe that was in here, and this piece as well, because I got a little leak here on this weld, so I'll fix that up while I got it out. Okay, one more thing out of the way. Now, I'm not sure how much it's going to help, but I'll take whatever I can get because it's rather cramped. Alright, we'll go from there. Okay, I've decided to not take this off. I don't think that back flange is leaking and it looks like a real pain in the ass to get off. Made a cap to go on here in place of the auxiliary drive, which I'm no longer going to use. And we'll move on to the other stuff. Okay, so here it is after it all comes apart. Now, that goes in there. And you got what is here, looks like a seal, must be like a little piston ring. And that runs within here. That's held to that with 2 screws. Also a gasket between them. We've got an O-ring in here. Alright, so I'll reassemble that with that. I'm going to use the gasket and some sealant for good measure. It looks to me like these here, these galleries, go across to here, to prime this with oil prior to starting, which will load these bearings up with some oil, which seems reasonable. Anyway, so I'll reassemble that bit. Once I put that into here, you sort of got to be, it goes in reasonably easy, just a bit of a wiggle, but I would be very cautious about breaking that because I haven't got another one. Seems to be fairly straightforward the way they work. The oil pressure from your engine comes in through here, feeds through this little hole here, and I'd say it's a feed back through that smaller hole there, which then comes back through in here and feeds these bearings plus whatever leaks past that ring type seal. So that's fine. And yeah, anyway, so I'm going to assemble this onto here and get it back on the next part fairly quickly, so I can get it all before the glue dries. And yeah, you've been very careful to use a sealant that only dries when it's compressed, so anything that does get in here won't block up any holes. Okay. Okay, so first piece assembled, held together with 2 of those. Okay, and if I can get a grip on it. There's the inside of there, so that's the next little thing. Okay, in there is that piece I was telling you about with the bit that looked like a piston ring. It seals it in there. And the next piece to go in is this. Onto there like so. Line up that keyway, I'll be right. Okay, so I'll probably just push that in with the press nice and gently, it doesn't take much. And then we can stick it on. Okay. Okay, so first half's in. Quick look at that. Okay, so the turbine's on. We're all back in down here. That orange shit's just the worst sealant. Now, getting it to slide coming out of here and go back in here, it really is quite tight. It might, if you've got the room, benefit to whack that thing in the freezer overnight just to shrink it down to a couple of thou. Like it wasn't, well, it was pretty tight coming out and going back in. But anyway, so that's in, that's on. Now I've just got to work on the other half, which will be later. Okay, so I was originally going to just put a new seal in it, just because it wasn't actually leaking. There was a tiny bit of movement in the bearing, in the outer hub that drives the fan, or carries the fan. Anyway, so I pulled it apart, and I'll show you what I found. Okay, here's the outer housing, which I've given a clean up and a coat of paint. Now, the way it comes apart is I didn't bother unbolting the turbine off that boss, but that comes through from the bottom. I've got this little sealy type arrangement with a special little seal. So that goes on there, tapered side, paper face downwards, which seals fits in there quite nicely. A little bit tricky getting it in there, but it goes in. Anyway, so I won't put that in, but yeah, it goes in. It runs on this little ring that's there, so that you get 1, 2, and we have the bearing. Now, this is the old bearing, which was a little bit rumbly when I took it out. Now it's locked solid, it won't even turn. So we've got the new bearing to go on, which is in turn held in place into this housing with an E-clip, which was quite worn. I don't know if you can see that there, but it was worn, been turned over a couple of times by the look of it, so both faces were worn. So got a newie and the new seal to go in after all that's assembled. And finally, at the end, that with a key, the keyway. On top is the key, and held in place with that with 2 bolts. So fairly straightforward. I won't bother videoing the assembly, but that's the order they go together in, which would have been helpful when I was pulling it apart. I would have took a bit of guesswork out of it. Anyway, we'll go from there. Okay, yep. Bearings in, E-clips in there. Now I'll just pop that little running ring seal thing in there. It sits against the back of the bearing, and it should run together when it's all assembled, so there won't be no scuffing between the two. So I'll just drop a little bit of oil down in there before I finish that part of the assembly, and yeah, that's that bit. Okay, so there's that part all assembled. I've loaded the lip of the seal with some grease and some sealant around the outside just for good measure. So now we've just got to put that on. I'll just put a bit of lube on that and pull it down. Should be as simple as that. Okay, and there we have it assembled with a touch of alpine green paint. Not all rumbly and sad like it was before I pulled it apart, so pretty happy with that. Okay viewers, One last thing on assembly is the gasket for the turbine housing, clamshell, whatever you want to call it. Freaking compressors, wouldn't you know it? Anyway, one last thing is to be very aware of getting the right holes lined up on that gasket, because as you can see, you've got a lot of choices, and you've got to make sure you don't block off these two oil holes. Alright, so make sure those two are clear, and all your bolt holes, and you're laughing. But yeah, as you can see, it's multiple choice options, and most of them don't line up. Okay, tech tip. First of all, rather than trying to hold this, well, you line it up with that. A couple of 5/16 UNC bolts at the head cut off. For guide, you can screw them out after you've got the rest of them in. And two, whatever sealer you choose to use something that's not going to block up the oil galleries. Like this product here, for example, the worst product. It only goes hard once it's compressed, so if it gets in a oil gallery or something, no big deal, it just washes through. Very similar to a Loctite 515, I think it is. But anyway, yeah, got the dowels. Recommend that. I already dropped it once. Right in the oil drainer, though, still that underneath. Alright, we'll put the rest of it together now. Okay, there you have it. Here's the guide bolts. It literally only fits one way, you can't get it wrong. The holes just don't line up, and you'll get it arse about on the gasket and the hat. So yeah, they're all in. Just unscrew these. Put the last two bolts in. If you want to get fancy, you can cut some slots in the end of them so you can undo them with a screwdriver. Or just a pair of pliers. It's not a big deal, they're not super tight. Only put them in 3 or 4 threads, so not bad. Like so. Put that back in there. And same on the other side. Okay, so there it is, done. All back together, except for the fan on, which I'll do in a minute. I'm going to put a couple of a water pipe back in there and an exhaust before I put that back together. I'm boring you with that. But overall, now that I know how it comes apart, it's not all that hard of a job. That's the guesswork of not knowing what goes where, or what comes apart, how it comes apart, sort of thing. That makes it a little bit trickier. But anyway, that should be good. We'll be testing it, well, as soon as I get the rest of it put back together. Catch you later.